And what I saw was a person standing there, and in my head the first thing was, it's a doctor or a nurse because I'm in the recovery room of a hospital. But then I looked and I could see he was wearing a brown robe, a white scarf, and I could see a shadow of a face in his beard, and his right foot steps out and he reaches like this and physically touches me on the shoulder. I felt his hand touch my shoulder. When his hand touches my shoulder, in my head it says, you're in the presence of Jesus. Wow. I'm getting chills right now. They couldn't figure out, I was getting better. There was no reason to stay there and have nurses overseeing me. I walk into Dr. Ahmad's office and she's smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah.
And she's smiling and she goes, I studied cancer all over the world and I've never seen anything like this before in my life. She says, Chuck, your journey's not of medicine, it's miraculous. She says, the scans came back and we can't find any cancer in your body.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Heaven on Earth podcast. We have such a special guest here today. This man has, God used him to change my life. He's very humble. He's not going to take the credit for it, but this is a full circle podcast. Like the way that this played out was just God's divine intervention. It was about 8 or 9 years ago. Before I was going to church, before I believed in anything, this man came up to me at the park. God used his puppy to run up to me, and it started a conversation that lasted like 2 or 3 hours. You told me the crazy story that you're about to share today, and you brought me to church. And ever since then, you guys, this podcast exists because God used this man to lead me back to church when I gave up on God. So this is a full circle. This is Chuck Keels. Welcome to the show, Chuck.
There are no accidents.
There are no accidents.
There are no accidents.
And no coincidences either.
No.
Crazy fun fact for everybody. They in church we learned that there is no word for coincidence in the original Hebrew language of Jesus. So I don't believe in coincidences because if it doesn't exist, then it's not a thing. We just made up word.
I love it. And you know what I also love is a lot of times we don't know why something's happening that's happening, and you look back 8 years and you're like, this is insane.
It's so crazy. Yeah, and people just have to realize, like, they see, like, Chuck has these stickers. On the window of the sticker it says Jesus freak, and like people see us as like Jesus freaks, but you know, like, you walk with God enough, and you start to see like this is all real. This is no hoax. This is no like crutch to make us feel more comfortable in life. Like, just like anything, learning a language, learning a new skill, the more reps you take, the more you learn, and the more it becomes a part of you, and the same as your walk with God. And you know, you've been walking with God a very long time. I've been walking with God like almost a decade now.
Not long enough.
Long enough, and I still don't know.
I bumped my head for a long time before this happened, you know?
100%.
But like you said, you know, I put this Jesus freak thing out there before what's happened to me, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Before that, I didn't want to be the nerdy guy in the room talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
You know? And so even if I don't talk about it, if they watch me now and they watch my lifestyle and the doors that God's opening, they're like, where do you get some of that? I want what you're having.
Exactly.
And maybe this Jesus freak ain't such a bad thing.
Exactly.
So we're going to make the Jesus freak thing like the coolest thing and just people flocking towards it. And that's my goal in life.
Exactly. There's Pastor Chad says something in the church that you introduced me to, Sun Valley. He said, there's no jerks for Jesus. I think when you're truly following Jesus in the way that you behave and treat people, I really believe that people, just like you said, are attracted to it. They no longer are judging you. Now they're like, I want a piece of that. Yeah. And that's what it's all about, is following Jesus.
Even if you just plant the seed.
Yeah.
Even if you just plant the seed, they're not ready right now.
Yeah, don't push it on them.
You keep going and they're watching like, what is going on with this dude?
Yeah, he's so different.
He's wild and different and having so much fun walking with Christ.
Exactly, dude.
It doesn't, I mean, it's different from what I learned growing up, and so that's why I'm having so much fun with it now.
Yeah, before we dive into the crazy miracle that is your story and how we met, why don't you talk a little bit about how you grew up? Did you grow up in a certain church? Did you have a certain faith background? Did you walk away from God? Was faith hard for you?
No, basically my whole family was Catholic, went to Catholic church. Okay. I grew up not only in the Catholic church, but I went to Catholic school. So I was learning some Bible study, but I was going to church with school on Wednesday and with my parents and family on Sunday. And what happened with me, and it's different for everybody, was I didn't feel like I was getting fed. I didn't feel like I was getting fed. And I was having a problem with just kind of a cookie cutter service where you say the same prayers and do the same thing. I didn't feel it in my heart. I could recite a prayer right now and almost not even know what I'm saying just because it's rehearsed. And what happened was I left the church and said, I'm not getting anything out of it. And what was happening with me, and I see it happening not just in the Catholic religion, but in a lot of religions, is emphasizing a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And that is the most important part of it. If you know a million Bible stories, it's great, but if you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, what's the meaning behind all of this?
Exactly. That's the main thing. And I think that's where most religions are missing is just that relationship with Jesus. Like everyone thinks it's about the rules.
And so I was out there bumping my head for a long time, looking for satisfaction in all of the idols of this world. And after, wasting tons of money and big parties and all these things that everybody told me was so much fun, and after it was over, I was hungover and lost. It wasn't a fix for my loss. And what happened is the story that I'm about to share with you. I think what happened was God said, I gave this guy this big mouth, I gave him this crazy personality, and I've been waiting and waiting for him to come to me. How about stage 4 cancer?
Yeah.
Do I have your attention now?
100%.
Let's go.
I feel like that's like why so many people never find their true gifts, is because they're chasing things that where they'll never find their gifts.
Yeah.
You found your gift once you started following God, because then you realized, okay, well, my outgoing personality was meant to be used to spread the word and to help change more lives and to give people hope and to tell people about Jesus. Whereas, like, for me, I feel like we'll waste our gifts and then they'll deteriorate if we're not using them the right way.
Not only that, but guess what? I was using my gifts to be a good in sales. And then looking at my bank account at the end of the week or end of the month and going, look what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't give any glory to God 100%. For giving me this personality. Look what I did, And it was such a time where, like I said, had a successful business that I owned and operated. Had money in the bank account. I was told by society, when you've got houses and cars and a big bank account, you're going to be a happy guy. And I worked hard and I got there and I was still lost. I was still lost. And I go, what's missing? And I didn't know it was a personal relationship with Jesus.
Exactly. It's hard to grasp until you have it. And then you're like, this is everything I was ever missing.
Yeah.
So why don't we'll fast forward a little bit to you and I meeting at the park and this crazy experience that led down my story of faith and your supernatural experience with Jesus. So why don't you tell people a little bit how you remember that scene playing out?
So there's a big park in Gilbert that I love to take my dog to a couple times a day. I might run hills while I'm there, I'll get a walk in. Basically, what happens is there's a drone flying over my head, and I'm like, that's cool. I want one of those,
Yeah.
And I come up and here you are controlling it. And you're like, I'm learning because I'm going to use it, for my media stuff. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And my dog, Jax, was a puppy at the time, ran over, and you were just flipping out over Jax.
Yeah.
And you even took a bunch of photos of Jax.
Yeah, cute.
And Jax brought us together. I got to share with you my testimony of something that had just happened to me recently, and I couldn't shut up about it.
Yeah.
I couldn't shut up about it. And that was our introduction.
Yeah, 100%.
Before you were married and had kids?
Yeah.
Before you had a podcast?
Yeah.
I think about it and it blows my mind.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I'm still learning. I'm still figuring out life. But at that point, I was just like, God was planting a seed. And then he's like, dude, this kid has been chasing the party. Just like you. It was just party, fight, fight. Drink. It was just chasing all the wrong things, because at those moments you feel the comfort, but then once the moment's over, you're like, what did I do all that for? And now it's like, I feel worse than I did before.
I gotta laugh, man.
Yeah.
You think about what happened, just me and you hanging out talking, and you even said, I'm kind of starting to think about Jesus and that, but I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You even said that over that conversation, and to think that dog and that drone brought us together, and we started talking, and here we are 8 years later, and look at the changes in our life.
It's crazy, and like such a small amount can happen in such a such a big amount can happen in such a small amount of time.
Yeah.
You told me something that really opened up my heart. I was open to learning about God, but I had so many questions, and they were very hard questions. Like, I remember going up to my dad, and this is what pushed me away from my faith originally. One, I was like, Dad, I'm not getting anything from church, because I believe we were going to Catholic church, and it was just like, I was falling asleep, there was no takeaways, we'd leave, and I'm like, Dad, do I have to keep going? But before that moment happened, I asked him, I was like, I asked one of the toughest questions, and this is a hard one to answer, but I asked, if God is real, then who created God? And he just didn't know. He's like, God's always been there. I'm like, that's not good enough for me. And that pushed me away from my faith. It's a silly thing, and we have a right to ask the questions. But eventually, years later, that's when I met you, and that's when you told me about how you had stage 4 cancer, and you saw Jesus, and he said he was going to take care of you. He said everything was going to be okay. And that was months, or that was at a time where the doctors say you only had a few months left to live.
Yeah.
And why don't you talk to us about that whole experience and what the doctor said and how the cancer played out and all of that.
So basically, always been a real healthy guy in the gym. Doing mud runs. I mean, anything that was a challenge for me physically, I was involved with. I was into juicing. I was into growing my own wheatgrass and cutting it with scissors and grinding it in the kitchen. So I was the healthy dude, right? So I'm running this landscaping business, designing landscaping and swimming pools. The business is successful. And basically, all of a sudden, I start getting tired. And I was not a guy to get tired. And then all of a sudden, I noticed I was losing some weight. My hair looked like it was thinning. And I have something that I call the male mentality of, I'll be okay tomorrow. Keep kicking the can down the street.
Yeah.
And every time I got up the next day, it was worse. It was worse and worse. And I started having aches and pains through my body. And I still put it off for another couple weeks. And I remember the last Friday that I went into my office carrying my briefcase, and there's 2 steps going into the office. And just to step up these steps, holding the briefcase on one side and how it torques on your body. And I was like, this is not good. There's something scary going on here for my back and stuff to hurt the way it does. So that night I took my boys out to eat. We got home and popped in a movie, and I couldn't get comfortable on the couch. So I threw a bunch of blankets and pillows on the floor, laid down on the floor, and was trying to get comfortable. And I was in such pain that I told my boys, one was in junior high, one was in high school at the time. And I said, I'm going over to the local hospital and to the ER to see if they can tell me what's going on. I got to that point where it was like, I have to do something. I have to figure this out. I'm not getting better. I go into the hospital, and to say that it was a life-changing experience for me is almost an understatement. I go into the hospital, and they start running scans and tests. And the first thing that happens within a half hour of being in the ER, the doc pops her head in and says, we got your x-rays back because it's digital, we get it fast, and you got 2 fractured vertebrae in your back. And I go, what? And she says, it's actually kind of common, but we can't say anything else until the rest of the scans come back. And I'm laying in the ER for 3-4 hours go by. And pretty much the doc comes in, shuts the door, puts the stool right next to me where I'm laying. And already I'm seeing how she's setting this up. And I'm like, this doesn't look good. She sits down and she says, Chuck, I got bad news. Everything you're going through is cancer related.
How was that? Was that like heavy? Were you shocked? Were you surprised?
No, I was numb. I went into shock. I said, wait a minute, what kind of cancer and how bad? And she says, well, we don't know yet. We have to bring in specialists tomorrow and do, in-depth biopsies and stuff to see exactly what's going on. But we know it's cancer. It looks like it's in quite a few different places in your body.
Wow.
And so the next day, a doctor comes in, and a bone cancer specialist. He's got a nurse behind him with a little cart of instruments. They start numbing up different parts of my body because they're going to do some biopsies. And he reaches over, and on this elaborate, tray of instruments, he picks up a drill that looks like something you would see from Home Depot.
Horrible.
And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what are you going to do with that? So they start drilling into my bone marrow to get bone marrow samples with this DeWalt drill.
What a nightmare.
And I'm freaking out. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then they patch me all up and they said, we've got to send this all into the lab. And they leave. My nurses come in and say, we're discharging you now because there's nothing else we can do until the results come back. And I leave the hospital that day and go home with my head spinning, know it's cancer, but not knowing how bad it is. Sent my paperwork that I had to everybody I know in the medical industry. My sister-in-law's a doctor in a children's hospital in Columbus, Ohio. I'm sending my medical stuff everywhere and everybody's like, this isn't enough information. We got to wait for the test to come back. 3 days go by, the tests come back. They call me and say, you're going to go in and see that same doctor that did the biopsies. I walk into the hospital down the hall and into this room, and the doctor's in a big brown desk at the end of the room, and I'm walking in and he's looking at me, but he keeps looking down at the paperwork that he's got laying on his desk. And he does this like 3 times, and he says, I've never seen test results that look like this, and the guy's still walking around.
Whoa.
And I'm like, okay, doc, what's going on? He says, Chuck, you have prostate cancer that you let go for so long that it started going to where it's fed and it got into your bone marrow and your lymph nodes. And this is a nuclear bone scan that says you have cancer in 90% of the bones in your body.
Oh my goodness.
He says, I don't even know how you're still here.
That's crazy.
I'm walking around. I'm in pain, but I'm walking around. My head's spinning. I'm like, what's the plan? He says, we don't have a plan. He says, there's no treatment we could do that could catch up to this.
Wow.
He says, I'm sorry. He says, there's nothing we can do. He says, you might have maybe 3 months to live. 3 months to live. And he says, go home and be with your family. I'm driving home. I'm in complete shock. I had tears running down my face, and I don't even really feel like I was crying. I just couldn't stop it. And it was that total freak out mode of, what did he just say? And are you kidding me? And I had to go home. My boys came in from school, sit them down on the couch, junior high and high school, and say, the doctors said Dad's really, really sick, and I've got 3 months to live. And they came off the couch, and it was nothing short of a nightmare of telling your 2 boys that you have stage 4 cancer and you've got 3 months to live. So we spent a little bit of time together, and then they went off to their rooms, and I'm sitting here, my brain's going 100 miles an hour, and I'm like, I think I need to get the boys on a plane and get them to Ohio where my family is, because when I'm gone, my family can take care of them. And then there's a knock on the door, and one of the boys go to the door and says, Dad, it's 2 women at the door. I go, tell them to come in. And I'm in pain, so I'm not moving much. I'm just doing what I have to do. And it's 2 hospice nurses. Hospice of the Valley was put on the doctor's reports and sent out 2 hospice nurses that are sitting on my couch writing prescriptions for pain meds. They wrote a prescription for a hospital bed that they're going to put downstairs, so I didn't have to climb the flight of stairs because I was in that much pain. Wow. And I look over, and one of the hospice nurses has a tear going down her face. And I'm like, it can't get any worse than this. How could it get any worse? The hospice nurse is crying. So they did what they can do, and they left. And I'm just totally freaking out. And I said, okay, I'm going to start booking flights and stuff and getting my boys to Ohio, because this is going from bad to worse fast. Booked a flight for 6 days later for me and my boys to fly out of Phoenix Sky Harbor into Columbus, Ohio. My family's all ready. And basically what happens is that week I gave away everything I owned. Wow. I gave away my beautiful brown leather furniture. I gave away my expensive side stands, my huge big screen TVs. What does all of the material things of this world become when you're told you have 3 months to live? Yeah. Absolutely nothing. It meant nothing. My friends I put up a little post on social media and said, I hope you're sitting down for this one. Stage 4 cancer, 3 months to live. People are freaking out all over the country, all my friends all over the country, from Ohio, from LA. And basically they start calling saying, hey, we want to come and see you before you leave. And I said, bring a truck, bring a trailer, go get a U-Haul and take what you want. And they're like, are you crazy? I go, I'm not taking anything with me except a suitcase full of clothes. And I said, everything that's still here at the end of the week is going on the curb, and anybody can have it that wants it. And I watched my stuff in 6 days empty out. I watched the house empty out, happy to see it go. You know, not sitting there mad because, I mean, happy to see people get it that wanted it. And so we stayed in a resort on Saturday night. We gave away our beds. We didn't have a choice. we stayed in a resort, me and the boys. And the next morning, I get up early and head down the hall towards the bathroom, and I hear a pop, and I land face down.
What?
And I can't move. And I always consider myself kind of a tough old Ohio farm boy. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe, because you know how your diaphragm moves when you breathe? The pain was going up and down my back and my head like somebody was stabbing me with a knife.
Oh my.
It was so unbelievable. I couldn't move. My son called 911. First, the hotel security comes in, and then a few minutes go by and 8 firefighters come in. And they said, he's got cancer, something happened. They have to get me onto it looks almost like an IKEA bag. It's like a bag with handles. And then they get me onto a gurney, down some steps into an ambulance, and every budge, the pain was going. Unbelievable. Excruciating. I mean, I couldn't breathe half the time, you know, and they get me in an ambulance. The ambulance goes 1 mile away to a hospital in Central Phoenix called John C. Lincoln Hospital. That was the closest to the resort. They get me in there in the ER, and they start running their own scans and tests. And I didn't even know this at the time, but a cancer doctor came into the room. She wasn't even supposed to be there. She came in to see another patient of hers, and they said, hey, we got a guy that just came in the ER with cancer. Can you go see him? And she comes in, and she's still in my life today. She's my cancer doc. She's my oncologist. So basically, they run 24 hours of tests, and 2 other guys came in throughout the day. And you know me, what do you guys do? We're spinal surgeons. The popping sound you heard when you fell face down and couldn't move was your spine. You suffered 2 compression fractures. Your back broke in 2 places, and within all the nerve endings and everything collapsed.
Oh,
that's why the pain was so crazy for you to even budge. And I go, okay, what are you going to do? Nothing. There's nothing we can do until they get a handle on the cancer.
Yeah.
Once we're on the team now, but until they get a handle on the cancer, there's nothing we can do. Once they get control of the cancer, we can reform some things in your back with some man-made materials that when they find your body 2,000 years from now and it's just dust, these 2 things will still be there because they're so dense. And so I was like, okay. But they were brought in. So I had a house doctor, 2 spinal surgeons, and a cancer doctor on a kind of a team now. And I'm kind of getting a little bit excited because this is the best thing that I've seen in the last, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
24 hours of testing goes by, and in the morning when the docs do their rounds, all 4 of them come in my room, and they're at the end of my bed, and they've got my file, and they said, hey, we're talking about this, we're looking at all the tests, and we want to fight this. And I said, what do you mean you want to fight this? On the other side of town at the hospital, they said there's nothing they can do, and they put me in hospice care. Well, we think that if we do 2 surgeries tomorrow, stop feeding the cancer, put something in your chest called a port that's set up to take a tube into your artery, and then they can puncture it every time they put chemo in your body. Stop feeding the cancer through a surgery. Stop killing the cancer through chemo. That's your chance. And I go, let's go. Yeah. This is the best thing I heard in weeks.
Yeah, some hope.
A little bit of hope, a little bit of fight. Let's go. And so the next day they wheeled me down into surgeries, right? Yeah. And I had two consecutive surgeries. I remember everything. I remember the lights in the room. I remember the nurses and the doctors by name. I remembered everything. I was chatting with them while they was prepping me for my surgeries, and all the way up to the point where they put the anesthesia in my IV and knocked me out. 2 hours later, I wake up. I'm in the recovery room now. I'm looking around. The nurses saw I was awake, brought me some water, sat it down next to me. Here's some water for you. Everything went perfectly. You got to hang out here for a little bit until you wake up. The doctors want to see you before you go upstairs. And I said, okay. And so I'm laying there watching everything going on around me. It's a waiting room to take people into surgeries and bring them back out. It's an older hospital. They're opening and closing curtains and everything. And my docs came in and explained, hey, surgeries went perfectly, and we're going to follow up with you once you leave the hospital. And now I'm a little jazzed because it's like, I have a team, and now we're going through this together. Like, we're going to follow up with you, and we're going to be in your corner. And so I'm excited about all that. And basically, I also knew that my brother from Ohio, my brother from Maine, and my boys were upstairs waiting. So I was like, I just want to go upstairs. I just want to go upstairs and see my family. And in my head, I'm thinking, at 50 years old, stage 4 cancer, I can't believe this is even happening. And so as I'm laying there, waiting to go upstairs and see my family, the room turns weird cold. And I all of a sudden I get this chill, and I'm like, boy, where'd this come from? And the first thing I do is I look to the right, down to the end of the room, where they just brought me out of the surgery, and there's 2 big double doors. And I'm thinking somebody left the doors open, and the cold air's coming through. And so I look down there, and the doors are shut. And I'm like, this is weird. What, where's this coming from? And I start to pan back to my left, and I got over my left shoulder this way, and I jumped, and it startled me because somebody's standing there. And what I saw was a person standing there, and in my head, the first thing was, it's a doctor or a nurse because I'm in the recovery room of a hospital. But then I looked, and I could see he was wearing a brown robe, a white scarf, and I could see a shadow of a face in his beard, and his right foot steps out, and he reaches like this and physically touches me on the shoulder. I felt his hand touch my shoulder. When his hand touches my shoulder, in my head it says, you're in the presence of Jesus.
Wow.
I'm getting chills right now. I look up again, and he's gone. So 2 to 3 seconds, according to what I heard in my head, I'm in the presence of Jesus, and I haven't been to church in 10 years. I was not the most likely guy for Jesus to be showing up, and visiting, and I'm freaking out. I'm flipping out. I'm like, what was that, and why me? And that's going through my brain over and over and over again, and all I can see is that brown robe and that white scarf, and his hand reached towards me. And that's going through my head, and they say, hey, time to go up to the room, and they wheel me up to my room. I get up to the room, and I tell my brothers and my son, I said, I just had something really weird happen in the recovery room down there, but I was touched on the shoulder by, I thought it was a doctor. In my head it says Jesus, and they're all like, yeah, well, and they're all still in the mode of, I'm dying of cancer, and they're like, something's going on. The 2 nurses on the floor saw that I was back in my room, and they came in, they said, hey, you're past time of taking your meds. It's time for your meds. And they have a little tray, and it's got these little paper cups with all the meds in it and water, and they go, your first one is steroids for shrinking the tumors. And I take the little cup, and I throw back the pills and chase it down with some water. The second one is bone strengtheners, and I take that. And they go, now the third thing is your pain meds, Chuck. Your pain meds are as needed. So you got to tell us on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, how bad is your pain right now, so we know what to get you on. And that morning, I was doing shots of liquid morphine every 4 hours because of the spinal collapse. I was doing shots of liquid morphine. They said, so how bad's your pain right now? I'm analyzing my body. I actually sit up on my hospital bed, and I said, I don't feel any pain. And they said, order something. You just broke your back and had surgery, order something. And I said, hey, I don't like taking aspirin. I'm not taking a drug if I don't need it. They hand me the nurse button, and they say, as soon as it comes back, hit this. We don't want it to get out of control. And the other nurse says something like when it comes back, and it will, because they are medical people. They know how the human body responds to things. And the pain that I was in that morning, she goes, and it will. That conversation happened on May 26, 2015. May 26, 2015 to right now, hanging out with you, the pain never came back.
Wow.
I never took another pain med. And the medical industry now is flipping out. The nurses told the doctors are coming in my room, trying to figure out what's going on. And one of the doctors said under his breath, talking to the nurse, I can't explain this. I can't explain this. That night, I'm the old farm boy from Ohio that goes to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock, back up at 5 o'clock with my cup of coffee ready to go 100 miles an hour. I can't sleep. My head's spinning. I'm like, what happened today in the recovery room, and why am I not feeling pain right now? And instead of washing my face and turning off the lights and ending my day like I normally do, I'm laying in bed. Everything's my brain's just going crazy trying to figure this out. And I watch the clock on the wall, 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock. I'm still laying there and I'm still flipping out. Lights are still on. And by this time, I've actually just started like talking out loud like I've lost my mind.
Yeah.
And I said, God, what gives? I don't know if you can consider that a prayer or not, but I said, what gives? You know? And then I said, I've got 2 boys at home in, junior high and high school. And I'm their own, it's a single parent situation. I said, and I'm 50 years old, and there's so many things in life that I haven't accomplished yet. What gives? And I'm laying there, and a few seconds go by, and the first thing I hear in my head is, you've been a fighter your entire life. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, whoa. And then a couple more seconds go by, and I hear, as long as you're alive, be fully alive. I heard that. I'm not kidding you.
Get up and live.
Get up and live. Be fully alive, right?
Wow.
My feet, I sat up in the bed. My feet hit the floor. I grabbed my IV pole that had all my fluids going to me. And all I was going to do was go to the bathroom and wash my face and end the day. And when I got to the bathroom door, I kept going. I went out onto the hospital floor. The nurses are flipping out. What are you doing out of bed without physical therapy? I said, I feel pretty good. I start walking. There was a scale out in the hallway. When I went around, there was a scale. I got on, I'm down 38 pounds, and I didn't have 38 pounds to lose. My legs look like sticks. I walked 2 laps around the hospital floor at a snail's pace.
Wow.
I got back to the room, washed my face, turned off the lights, got in bed and go, I'm completely exhausted because, my body's just so fragile.
Yeah.
But no pain. No pain. And I look at the ceiling and I go, God, thank you. I needed this. I needed a little kick in the butt. As long as you're alive, be fully alive. I was the guy always pushing, always taking on a mud run, a triathlon. I was that guy doing this stuff. And for a moment there, because of this distraction called cancer, I forgot I was that fighter, and God reminded me. And so basically what happened was I love May 26, 2015, because not only did I have a visitor touch me on the shoulder, but that night was the first time in my life at 50 years old that I had a personal conversation with Jesus Christ. It was my surrender moment. I'm in. I don't know what the plan is. And I know you've been trying to get my attention my entire life. I know that.
He always is.
He always is, right? But I kept doing Chuck's plan and bumping my head into the wall. And I said, I am exhausted of trying my plan. I want to do your plan now. I totally surrendered that night, okay? I had no idea what was going to happen next. I had no idea if it was a short journey or a long journey. I had no idea if that doctor, when he said it was 3 months to live, if that was going to come true, and I was just going to be around for a few more months for my boys and get them to Ohio to a safe place. So they moved me over to the Mayo Clinic, and at the Mayo Clinic, they're kind of freaking out because I'm getting better.
Yeah.
They're trying to figure out. Usually, a guy that has stage 4 cancer, spinal collapse, his body's falling apart, he's down 40 pounds, comes to the hospital. Usually you don't get better.
Yeah.
They're all freaking out, and so is my family and everybody watching this on social media. And I told the nurses at the Mayo Clinic, I want to go home and take my boys to football practice and cook them dinner. And they're like, this guy's lost his mind.
He's going Looney Tunes.
He's crazy, right? And what happened was they started the chemo there, and the chemo kicked my tail for 2 to 3 days. Any side effect you can imagine, burnt the lining of my throat, lost all my hair. All that stuff is happening, but I would sneak out of the hospital on the good days, not the 3 to 4 days after the chemo where I couldn't hardly get out of bed, but the good days before the next chemo section next week, I would slip out of the hospital. Like I said, I woke up at 5 o'clock. I'm an old farm boy. Had my shoes right by my bed, slip them on, go down the hall, out the door, and into the desert because I'm a hiker. I like to be in nature. So I'm out there looking at the McDowell Mountain ranges and the sun coming up and the crazy sunrises and stuff. And I start chatting with God. I start praying. I'm like, I don't know what your plan is. I don't know what your plan is. I even heard some downloads that are just, I might write a book someday about things that God told me. But God said, you will get everything back little by little, but I want you to start focusing on what you're truly passionate about. I'm like, what am I hearing? It was like that crazy, right? And 3 weeks at the Mayo Clinic, they just discharged me, and I went home and I started cooking dinner for my boys and taking them to football practice.
So why'd they discharge you?
They couldn't figure out. I was getting better. There was no reason to stay there and have nurses overseeing me. I wanted to go home.
Did they do any like x-rays on you?
Everything.
So
everything. Every scan you could imagine, over and over. CT scans, x-rays, everything you could imagine in the medical industry, I had several times trying to figure out what's going on with this, right?
Yeah.
So I get home. I'm still going to chemo through the doctor, Dr. Ahmad, that I met when I went into, I took me into John C. Lincoln. I'm still going to her clinic and getting my chemo, and then going home, and 3 or 4 days stuck in the bed, sick boy, and then on my good days, get up and live. As long as you're alive, be fully alive.
Yeah.
Get your butt moving, push yourself, and so that's what I started doing. I even had a time I started going back to the gym. And I was the dude in there moving some weight. I was putting the pin under the top plate now. But I was like, the devil started jacking with me. You're wasting your time. What are you doing? Put the pin under the top plate, and I go, get in there and get busy. Get in there and get busy. Mind over matter. Don't listen to the devil.
Yeah.
He's going to steal your joy.
Yep.
I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to go at it however I can. So they're doing this chemo every week. And it's time for a scan. 3 months go by, it's time for a scan. And the scans tell the doctors an update on how bad the cancer is, or is it getting better? And if it's getting worse, maybe it's time at that point to change your treatment plan.
Yeah.
So I'm going through all that. They send me into one medical institute on Tuesday, and they said, yeah, this will be sent over to your cancer oncologist center on Thursday. I go in there on Thursday and get my 2 hours of chemo drip, and then go down the hall and in the waiting room, and they call my name, and I go in to see my doctor to tell me what's going on with the scans. I walk into Dr. Ahmad's office, and she's smiling from ear to ear. And I'm like, what's up, Dr. Ahmad? And she's from Pakistan. I don't know what her spiritual walk is. And she's just she's a fighter. She's a tough oncologist. I love having her in my corner. And she's smiling. She goes, I studied cancer all over the world, and I've never seen anything like this before in my life. She says, Chuck, your journey's not of medicine, it's miraculous. She says, the scans came back, and we can't find any cancer in your body. Wow. Terminal cancer, gone. She said, you got a lot of damaged bones, there's all this stuff. She said, no. At that time, she said, that she told me when all this happened, my bones were fragile. She says, but the thing that's blowing my mind is your bones are so clean we couldn't tell they were ever broken. You're telling me that the terminal cancer's gone and my bones are healthy after all the stuff I've been going through? I walked to the parking lot at this medical facility, and my head is spinning, and all I can think of is, Lazarus, get up and walk. Because I seen myself dying. My family was preparing for me to die. I had 9 toes in the grave. And now you're telling me the cancer's gone? And you're telling me that the bones are so clean we couldn't tell they were ever broken? There is no doubt in my mind that I experienced a complete miracle. And the story was so crazy that 3 news stations, ABC, CBS, and Fox News, all picked it up and put it on the news. Wow. Miraculous healing. And so basically what happens is I see myself starting to get calls from a lot of people that know me, a lot of people that found me on Facebook or social media, YouTube. And what happened was I remember the first call that I got was, your cousin gave me your phone number. I hope that's okay. And I'm like, sure, what's up? And they said, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. And I said, why are you calling me?
Yeah.
I'm a landscape designer. You need a doctor. You got the wrong number, right?
Yeah.
No, you survived stage 4 cancer. What did you do?
Interesting.
And I'm like, what is going on? Okay, I got to give them some takeaways. You know, I love people and I want to help people. So I said, okay, well, here's what I did. I juiced. I use essential oils. There's some medical stuff that has a background with essential oils helping the human body. I said I started praying. I think your faith is huge in this journey. Love. You want to hear why love was brought into it?
Yeah.
I opened my door one day and my neighbor's standing there with a pan of chicken enchiladas. And I go, you brought dinner for me and my boys after I'd been through chemo and I couldn't cook that night? And this feeling went through my body. Love heals. Love heals. So prayer, love, juicing, essential oils, and get up and live. Move your body. As long as you're alive, be fully alive. The human body was not meant to stay on a couch or in a bed, even after a cancer diagnosis, a car accident, a stroke, anything that happens to the human body, you were not meant to stay on that couch or in that bed. And I'm not saying to pry you out of there when you're healing after a surgery or a car accident or something.
Yeah.
I'm saying in the amount of time it takes to get your body moving. I started in bed, spinal collapse, moving my arms and moving my legs. I was, just doing things there and then started graduating on. So the crazy thing about all of this whole story is I never imagined in a million years that I would start my own cancer foundation, Living Hope Cancer Foundation, 6 years ago. And what's the pillars to my cancer foundation? Prayer, love, juicing, essential oils, move your body. And people, this is what I do now.
Yeah.
This is what I do. So basically, our interaction was a dude with a big mouth that had a miracle that couldn't shut up about it.
Yeah.
I'd go to coffee and be at the coffee shop, tell 15 people. I'm telling people and having breakfast. I'm telling people walking my dogs. I'm telling people at the gym. I'm telling people at the grocery store. Like, you want to hear something crazy? And they're like, what? And I'm telling the story. And they're standing there tearing up and everything. And I even had a girl in the park. I told her my story. She started tearing up, and I was like, I didn't want to make you cry. And I gave her a little bit of a hug. And she says, Chuck, you don't understand. She says, I've had 3 bad years, bad relationships. I've got children, career, financial, just one after another, 3 years. And she says, just recently I was thinking that I should maybe go back to church and maybe that's where the answers may be. And I just heard your story and I'm going back to church this Sunday.
Wow.
I started tearing up myself, gave her a hug, and I walked in my car. And on the way to my car, out loud, I go, God, you want me to bring people to you. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was maturing and I was growing into what just happened. And I didn't know until that young lady opened her mouth and said that God gave me a testimony that would bring people to him.
Yeah. I like to say you don't need a degree, you need a testimony, because you can't debate a testimony.
Yeah.
You can debate with a degree.
Yeah.
But how's your faith been like since then? Like, have you had moments where your faith was very under fire, under testing? I mean, everyone sees you and you're like, man, Jesus healed this guy. He's got this powerful faith. Now he's going and bringing people to Jesus. Like, how's your faith been? Has it had its ups and downs? I know everybody has.
I had a good foundation as far as faith, but like I said, at the time that I had the miraculous healing is when I surrendered. I think I might have downloaded like a Bible app on my phone or something. So I started like veering into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Never really got into the Bible much my entire life. And then through this journey, I'm coaching all these cancer people now, and even made a little card that said cancer coach on it. I was like,
wow,
I'm a cancer coach. And I told them I don't have a certificate. I'm not in the medical industry. It's all from my personal experience. And people are starting to flock into me. And my cousin introduces me to a beautiful lady named Hannah. And Hannah has stage 4 breast cancer, stage 4 triple negative. That's the worst. They told her she had maybe a year to live. Okay? I meet her, and this has been after 2 years of diagnosis. They said a year to live. 2 years into this, I meet her, and she looks beautiful and even healthy. I'm like, you got stage 4 cancer? Look at you.
Yeah.
You're just a beaming, shining light. And after a couple cups of coffee, couple coffee sessions, we're sitting there, and she's like, stage 4 cancer, who's going to want to date me now? And I'm sitting there looking at her, and I'm like,
this guy.
Pick me.
Yeah.
I hope I'm on the top of that list. So she laughed, and we started dating, and we only dated for 3 months, and we walked down the aisle.
Yeah.
We got married, and who was our photographer?
This guy.
Dude shows up.
You guys were in love.
Dude shows up with his camera equipment. He's running around video, and it was I still show the video you made from our wedding.
It made it to the news, bro.
Oh, it's crazy. It's been all over the place.
Yeah.
It's been all over the world now.
Yeah, crazy.
It's crazy, right? And you were a part of watching me and this beautiful lady, and what people don't know was God orchestrated the entire thing, because as humans, you can't plan this, you couldn't make this up, but God can, right? But God can. So I meet Hannah. Now you got 2 stage 4 cancer people. I'm still labeled the stage 4 cancer guy.
Yeah.
I didn't know all of the stuff that was going on. I'm still kind of skeptical of what's going to happen here, even being touched on the shoulder and being told that it's miraculous. You're still human.
Yeah.
And the devil's still jacking with you.
Yeah, dude.
Don't tell your story to everybody. Nobody wants to hear your story.
Dude.
This is stupid, dude. You're out there running your mouth. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't tell my story. And God's just laughing. He's like, there's nobody around you that has your kind of story.
Yeah.
There's nobody. That's how powerful the story that I gave you is. And so what happens is me and Hannah fall in love, get married, go on a beautiful honeymoon. The pictures are still all over the world, and her picture that I took of her on the beach ended up on a cover of a book that she wrote called Faith Like Skin. And basically what happened was she saw me taking all these calls around designing landscaping projects, and she says, every time the phone rings and they mention cancer, you drop everything. I go, I know. I just went through it. I know what it's like. And so it became high priority if someone called and mentioned cancer, or if a foundation called and said, can you help us with an event? Can you chair this, or can you be a speaker on stage for our event? And I always said yes. And Hannah says, I feel like God's telling me we're supposed to start a cancer foundation. And I go, I don't even know what that looks like. I started a landscaping business. That's a bad dream. It's a headache all the time. I don't even know what that looks like. And so we sat down and we started, we had a couple phone calls and a couple meetings with some attorneys and stuff. And they said, for $12,000 or for $14,000, we'll do this for you and you'll be up and running in 6 months. And we looked at each other and she's like, we don't have $12,000.
A lot of money.
That's a lot of money, right? Yeah. And so we go home, and I said, by this time I had wrote my first book. God was poking me on the shoulder. Don't laugh at me. God was poking me on the shoulder, write a book. And I go, I don't even like to read. How does this work out? But guess what? Everything changes when Jesus shows up, right?
Yeah.
Everything changes,
100%.
right? I write a book, and it's published. I'm a published author. And she's working on her book, and I'm helping her with that.
Yeah.
And I said, if we can write a book and publish it, we can figure this out.
Yeah.
So we start going through Google, we start going through YouTube, we start watching it like we were in a classroom and writing down notes. So it was time to actually do the paperwork for a 501c3 nonprofit. We downloaded the paperwork from the IRS. We prayed over every page. Licked the envelope, put the money in there, and we sent it off. And the way it works is, if they go through it and something's not up to snuff, it's not to what it's supposed to be, you don't have to pay the money again. They just keep sending it back until you get it right. Okay? So he said, hey, just like the attorney says, our goal is to get this up and running in 6 months. And about a month went by, 30 days. We'd always sit outside in the front. We had bird feeders and stuff, and neighbors coming by and stuff. We'd sit out there and eat our dinner, and Hannah walks down to the mailbox and comes back, and she's going through the mail and flips one of the letters on my lap. She goes, you open that one. And I look at it, it says IRS, and I go, I don't want to open this one.
Nobody does.
Nobody does.
Throw that one away.
I opened this letter, and it says, congratulations, you're a 501c3 nonprofit in 30 days.
Wow.
In 30 days. We didn't pay the astronomical fees through attorneys. We prayed over every page, and we launched Living Hope Cancer Foundation in 2020, in February of 2020. And what I didn't know was the God plan. The God plan that sometimes you have to just keep going forward in blind faith. And then what started happening was way outside of this little brain that I have in this head, right? And this cancer foundation blows up.
So you and Hannah start that cancer foundation together.
Yep.
And you guys are brought to that together by God.
Yeah, and she's as productive as I am. Her energy's like mine. She's a get it done. We have a whiteboard on the wall. Ideas go up there, move across, they're done. You know, boom. We're getting calls from all over the place now to do speaking events. The 700 Club sends a movie crew here to Scottsdale and films my testimony. It hits the 700 Club and goes worldwide.
Wow.
Before, with all the news stations being syndicated, it was popping up all over the country. Now it's going worldwide. We're getting calls to speak on stage for retreats, for churches, for businesses paying us to be inspirational speakers for an event that they had. And we're just pinching ourselves like, can you believe this? Can you believe this, right?
Yeah.
And we're watching all this happening, and we're watching the foundation grow. And we also realize right away it's a ministry. It's a ministry. Because the cancer people are going to flood into us because we're helping and loving cancer people. And at the end of the conversation, no matter if they're a believer or a non-believer, that's not my business. But I know what you're going through, and I know what your family are going through. And I've got them and their wives and their kids on a speakerphone. Can I say a quick prayer for you? Yes, please. They're scared. It's cancer.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, God's pouring people into me because they're scared. And I get to pray with them. Believers and non-believers. Non-believers are saying, yes. Come on, where do you go in this world to do that? Where do you go? They're coming to me, and me and Hannah are watching this and giving God the glory every day and every night of the beautiful blessings and what's happening in the growth and the open doors and where we're going. And learn the lesson of thanking Him at the end of the day for the closed doors. Thanking Him at the end of the day for a door that closed. Well, I wanted that. You know, I wanted to do that, or we wanted to go here, and the door closes, and like, we can't figure this out. And we look at each other and just laugh. It's like, God don't want us there.
Yeah.
We start identifying the closed doors so fast that we just go the other direction.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you don't have a bunch of drag time. All of a sudden you don't have a bunch of time where you're pounding your head into the wall trying to go somewhere you're not supposed to be in the first place. Yeah. Everything was so cool and so beautiful. The only problem we were having was Hannah's cancer still causing all kinds of problems. She's going through a roller coaster ride, another treatment, radiation, bones breaking and stuff. We would stand on stage, and I would say, you know, when they came in and said, who walks around with a broken back? And then she would start talking her story, and she would say, who walks around with a broken back? She had a spinal collapse also. We're both, it was so crazy, and people couldn't believe it. And what happened in this beautiful orchestration of just God's plan rolling out, but the hard things with my beautiful wife having pain and cancer. And I have to say also, she couldn't take the good pain meds because she would get nauseated and throw up.
Oh.
She went through broken bones and cancer surgeries on Tylenol.
Wow.
It was
That's horrible.
It was traumatizing to watch my beautiful wife go through this. And what happened was they identified 3 little new nodes on her brain, which is kind of the bad thing when breast cancer spreads all over and starts showing up in the brain. And we're like, this isn't good. And the doc said, we suggest pinpoint radiation. It'll just zap those and they'll be gone. And we're like, let's go. And she lined up for 2 weeks of brain radiation, 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on. And any type of treatment, be it chemotherapy, radiation, be it pills, has side effects, right? And everybody's body's different, and some people handle it a lot better. I've seen people going through chemo that were like rock stars, and I was flat on my back for 4 days after mine. So I see everybody going through different things, and by the end of the 2 weeks, Hannah's her body organs started to shut down. And the next 4 months was the probably hardest nightmare that I ever faced in my entire life, of watching Hannah melt away. Even her eyesight and her hearing, you'd have to get up close to talk to her. Her body shutting down. And 4 months after that radiation on her brain, I was holding her in my arms when she took her last breath. Just an absolute nightmare. An absolute nightmare. And I was mad.
Yeah.
I said, I have to pry myself out of bed the next day. I wake up and I go, God, how do you even start your day after that happened? How do you go on? What do you do now? My wife, my business partner, my best friend. I woke up by myself today. I get out of bed and I go feed my dogs. I put them on a leash and I take them out along the canal here in Phoenix. And I'm mad and lost and kicking stones. And while she was going through all this, I was praying over her. I was putting essential oils on her head and her spine. Twice she laughed, and I go, what are you laughing about? She goes, why do you have your eyes closed? And I said, this isn't between me and you, it's between me and him. I was like, I'm trying to get my wife healthy, you know. This was between me and God. And I was walking my dogs, and I said, God, what happened? What happened? I said I was praying over complete healing of every cell in her body from head to toe, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day. What happened? And I hear a voice in my head, and God says, you were praying for complete healing, and I gave her complete healing, just not as you saw it.
Wow.
She's no longer in pain. She no longer has cancer. She's dancing in the arms of the Lord for eternity. And I got that download, and I said, I'm jealous. It gave me peace. It gave me peace to get through the grieving process and what's still happening now. It happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago, my beautiful wife took her last breath, and I had to figure out how to live life again. And there's you know me. You very seldom hear me even say the word hate.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it twice right now. There's 2 things in this world that I hate. I hate cancer. And I'm working with cancer families now, a patient and everybody around them, even in the community and their church, and everybody's falling apart because somebody has cancer. I'm working in the cancer world, and I hate it, and that's where God wanted me to be. The other thing I hate is the loss of a loved one. The loss of a loved one, be it a child, your wife, your husband, a close friend, a coworker at work, whatever it is, when you lose a loved one, I hate that. And God's got me coaching that now too. I'm working with families now of what to do after you lose a loved one. And I'm just like, God, I cannot believe what you have me doing. But this was the purpose that he formed Chuck together in his mother's womb. This was the purpose before society started bumping me all over and I got lost. And now after a miraculous healing, I started unraveling all the stuff of society, and I started seeing this package that God made me to be in the first place. The purpose that he made me to be in the first place.
That's crazy, because I believe that there's few things in life that are okay to hate, but I feel like we will actually find our purpose in the things that we hate if it's not towards another man-made person made in the image of God, you know what I mean? Where we hate, like I hate seeing the homelessness. I hate seeing cancer as well. I hate seeing the trafficking and all the evil things in this world, and I feel like that's where God is calling us, and he called you there through your hate for cancer. And look at you, you've traveled the world. You traveled more places than I can even name on a map without looking, and you've just been everywhere. How did you, I'm sure it took a while, but how did you bounce back through all of that? Like, one, you recovered from cancer. Boom, great, miracle. Now you have a wife who has cancer. You get your prayers answered, but not in the way you want. You lose her. Chuck, or Jax, the amazing sweet dog that I knew that introduced you and me. Well, Jesus used Jax to do that, and He's with Hannah as well now. But like, how do you navigate through that? Because people see all of these things happening in their life, and they're suffering, and they're experiencing real suffering, and they're like, how does this guy Chuck have such a good attitude? I'm sure you didn't have a good attitude this whole time, but like, what do you say to the people who are going through all this suffering, and they're like, how is God here if I'm going through all of this stuff? You know?
So the first thing that happened after she passed away for the next couple of weeks was prying myself out of bed and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do today. And God even said in some prayer time, I don't expect you to do anything, just be present. I got you. So I would pry myself out of bed, go down the hallway, and in my house I have a little bar cart. It's alcohol, right? It's more of decoration. I don't even drink unless somebody comes over that wants a cocktail after dinner. But it's just sitting there, and I'm in pain. I'm broke. My heart's broke. I'm lost. I'm trying to figure this out. And I walk by this little bar cart, and I'm like, dude, just pour a big fat drink and throw it back and numb yourself up to all of this. It won't hurt as bad if you do that. And I said, no, I got cancer patients calling. I've got things going on with the foundation. I've got, just stuff going on. And so I'd go past the bar cart, make my coffee, sit down at my desk. And instead of reaching for a bottle, I reached for my Bible. I reached for my Bible. I got in the Bible. The Bible that Hannah was the one that really said, we got married. I start my day with a cup of coffee and a Bible story. I'll see you in the kitchen. And I go, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And she got me into the Bible deeper than I've ever been before. And I'm starting to read the Bible and read this manual and this beautiful instructions that God gave us. And it never meant what it meant now. I'm like, what? This is crazy. Yeah. I started remembering Bible verses for the first time in my life. And it wasn't that I was sitting there memorizing Bible verses. It was because they changed my life. They changed my life. As an athlete and a little bit of a bar fighter, and kind of a troublemaker in my day, I'm sitting there reading the Bible one morning, and James 1:19 pops up, and it says, be quick to listen, but slow to speak and slow to anger. Are you kidding me? I'm like, I needed this my whole life.
Yeah.
I needed this my entire life. And so basically, I stayed really busy with the Cancer Foundation, and the next 6 months I was jamming and doing pretty good. And I even did some new stuff on the news and podcasts. And I'm like, hey, I'm doing pretty good. And then my speaking events come up, and what I do is I schedule 4 months of speaking events all over the country, and I bought a little RV. God gave me a little RV. And that's every hippie's dream, right? And I get this little RV, and I get to run around the country and do speaking events. Yeah. And I hop in the RV. It's all packed up. I'm ready to go. And I leave, and my first event's not until I get to Alabama. So I got 2 days of driving, and I've got worship music playing. And I started bawling like a baby, crying like, what's going on here? When you're busy, doesn't mean you're grieving.
Yeah.
You're just kind of getting through your
It
day.
in a way.
You're avoiding the really what's going on, the hurt and the pain. And I thought I was jamming, and I get in the RV, and I cried for 2 days to get to my first speaking event. And I had pastors on the radio. I had worship music playing. I'm crying out to God. Why? Why? How do I live my life now? How do I get through life? And found out the grieving process is head on, not the grieving, any problem in life. If you and your wife or husband are having a problem and you try to avoid it, you'll never solve it.
Yeah.
But when you take it head on and you talk about it and you get into it and then you can put it to rest, that's a different deal.
Yeah.
And I started having that conversation with God for 4 months, and that speaking tour was one of the hardest of my life. Not that I didn't love every host and every pastor's house I stayed at, and every church and every business and every place I walked on stage and told my testimony and my story and to share love. It wasn't that stuff wasn't still happening, but the grieving process that was happening at that time of having 7 hours to drive to the next event is where God, right where God wanted me to be.
Yeah, Jesus said, "Blessed are those."
It's 2 years later. It's 2 years later. Okay, I still I go to a place to speak where me and Hannah were on stage together, and that girl was a rock star. She was a shining light. I remember in Denver on stage at a church, I remember stepping back 2 steps, just watching her like, that's my wife.
Yeah.
That's amazing. She's just such a beautiful shining light for Jesus Christ. And so the grieving process is something that you have to just take head on. And so I'm trying to figure out how that works, trying to work on the foundation. I'm coaching cancer people every day. And one of my buddies says, Chuck, I cannot believe you do what you do. And he even said, I've known you for years. And he says, if you didn't have that miraculous healing and if you hadn't found Jesus, I think after Hannah passed away, you'd be either drunk or dead. And he was right. He was right. And I said, yeah. I said, my faith is my rock.
Everything.
This is how I'm climbing, right?
Yeah.
And he says, dude, you need a Camino. And I'm like, what's a Camino? Do you know what
From Star Wars? No.
No. Do you know what it is? El Camino? You mean a car?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Do you know what a Camino is?
No.
So I've known about it for years. I always thought I'd like to do it. So a Camino is the Apostle James, the follower of Jesus. After Jesus went to heaven, James preached all over Portugal, Spain, France, and would end up back in Santiago, Spain. Okay, King Harold ordered his death. They cut off his head, and they took him to Santiago, Spain, and that's where they buried him. Okay, so Christians started trekking the footsteps of St. James. There's 6 different known treks called the Camino del Santiago. Camino in Spanish is the way of St. James. They walk this trek, it's spiritual trek, and each one of them is different lengths. And he's like, you need a Camino. I'm not kidding you. I pulled up Camino on my YouTube, and I'm watching a couple videos. 10 minutes in it, I'm booking my flight. I'm that serious about going to Portugal, where I've never been before, and walking 300 kilometers up to Santiago, Spain. 200,000 people do a Camino del Santiago a year now, all for their own personal reasons, whatever it may be. Some aren't even strong Christians. They don't look at it like I was like, I'm walking the footsteps of St. James. I was jazzed before I even got there. But some people are just like, I'm having some bad things happen in my life, or a death in the family, or whatever it may be, a divorce. I'm going to go do a Camino because it's the thing to do. So I go and I do this Camino, and 2 days before I left to fly over there, I was all excited, like I'm going to Portugal, I'm going to Spain for the first time in my life. And then I got nervous. Like a couple days before I left, and I go, the devil was jacking with me like, what are you doing? You can't do that. And I just started praying right off the bat. I said, God, here I go. I'm going to a different country I've never been to before. I don't know what's going to happen there. And God just says, step out in blind faith. Step out there. You may not know the path in front of you, but you step out there in blind faith, and I guarantee you, I'll be there with you. I fly to Portugal. I start walking this Camino. 15, 16, 17 miles a day, 59 years old, after stage 4 cancer, carrying a 22-pound backpack. You talking about a physical test, a mental test, but the spiritual side of it was mind-blowing. Time to pray, time to meditate. I'm walking along the ocean of Portugal. You meet other pilgrims that are walking their trek. Hey, why are you here? Went through divorce last year, and my life is a wreck. I needed to clear my mind. My brother drowned. My mom died. I heard stories. My baby in my womb passed away, and I don't know how to live my life. I'm hearing these stories. I tell them my story. We're tearing up. We're hugging, and I'm spreading love. How can I pray for you? How can I pray for you? Well, I'm not really a believer, but yeah, my mom passed away, and I need to figure out my life. Okay, come here. I'm praying with non-believers again. I'm praying with people, some believers, some non-believers. Even a lot of believers aren't strong believers.
Yeah.
You know, they go to church, or they don't go to church, and they might believe in Jesus. They might not have a personal relationship with him. And I'm praying with all of them. Come in here. Come in here. God's got this joy flooding out of my heart, and I got some for everybody. Come and get some. Come and get some of this. And people were like, dude, you got like this glow in your face and in your eyes, like what's up with you? And they don't know about how close me and Jesus Christ are getting, right?
Yeah.
And so I walked this Camino, and a couple days into the Camino, there was a guy and a girl that I kept bumping into.
Yeah.
And on the Camino, you meet somebody and you stop for coffee, take your pack off, use the bathroom. You might not ever see them again. Well, I think one of the things I loved about it was everybody's from all over the world doing their Camino. You hear different languages, every person you meet, every group you meet, different languages from all over the world. Some spoke a little bit of English. A lot of times we're on like a Google Translate app to communicate a little bit and stuff. So you may never see him again, but there was a guy from Canada who was a musician that plays all over the world. And there was a girl from Italy, and I kept bumping into the two of them like every day.
Yeah.
It was almost weird. Like it became like a joke, like Chuck, like Nathan, like Vanya, you know, it was like a joke, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up getting their numbers from an app called WhatsApp, and so you can communicate all over the world. I have them in my phone. I said, if we don't bump into each other, at least we can be in contact, but I still kept bumping into them. And I even had dinner with Nathan a couple of times, dinner with Vanya a couple of times. And Vanya, like right away, our talks and stuff, I was kind of digging her because she was 56 years old and I'm 59 and we're out there doing this Camino. And she looks like she's 45. She's like jamming. But I also noticed she had some serious walls, right? And it was a complete God story of, Chuck, you have no control over this. I have all control over this. Don't try to intervene. Don't push it. Don't try to, just let me have this. This is what God's telling me the whole time. I'm looking at her like, she's kind of cute. My wife passed away. You know, it'd be fun to have somebody in my life like this. And I'm not kidding you. God just kept reminding me, I've got it. I've got it. I've got it. And as we walked through this Camino del Santiago, looking at the old villages and the ocean and just the beauty of the entire thing and pushing yourself physically, me and Vanya got closer and closer. And by the end of the Camino, it was an interesting conversation, but she's like, somehow I hope we can see each other again. And something kind of crazy happened too was a couple days after I met her, I would pray, meet other people, do things, and if I had downtime, I would just pop in my earphones and just listen to music. And this song keeps coming on. I labeled it like my song of my Camino. And it's a young lady that sings for a church down in North Carolina, and she's done some of her own things. And she has a song, and it says in the song, even if I'm on this free piano somebody gave me, or wearing clothes from the thrift store, no matter what happens, as long as I'm with you, I'm rich. And I was like, that's crazy cool. I love that, you know?
Yeah.
And like 3 days of hearing it, I'm like, I'm going to send it to Vanya. She don't even know, you know, me and things like that, but I'm going to send it to her. I get a message back a little bit later, and she's like, that is absolutely beautiful. So it became my song for this Camino. So one day I was like, it came on, you know, I didn't even, it was in my list. It came on, and I was like, oh, there's my song. I said, I want to listen to every word. I want to listen to every word of this song. And I'm listening to the words to this song, and she said something, and I started crying. Can I show you something on my phone?
Yeah, please.
I got it here somewhere. So listen to this. I hear the words to this song, and I start crying because I'll show you a picture. This is a picture of my beautiful wife, Hannah, that passed away, okay? And I'm listening to this song, and as soon as I heard the words of this song, I thought about this picture. And basically what happened was, we were doing a speaking event in Littleton, Colorado, and went in a coffee shop. And in the song, it said, it's silly. Being with you is like a heart-shaped balloon floating off to the moon.
Wow. No way. Now, so this is the story behind your tattoo right there, huh? Look at that.
I'm in tears. I can't believe what I'm hearing. I sent this to Vanya.
Yeah.
And a friend of Hannah's calls me from the States while I'm in Spain and says, I had a dream last night that Hannah introduce you to Vanya.
Get out of town.
And the reason why is because I put a video of me and Vanya was going to dinner, and I just put a little video on there, but everybody seen our smiles and was like, what's up with this Vanya girl? And I'm like, we're just friends. And they're like, I don't think so, right?
Yeah.
And one of Hannah's friends calls and said, I had a dream that Hannah had something to do with you meeting Vanya. That my angel, right? So we finished this thing, and Vanya's like, whatever it takes for us to stay in touch, let's do it. Let's do it. So now here we are a few months after this Camino, and we are making bigger and better plans.
Wow.
I'm going to Italy. She lives in Italy. I'm going to Italy to spend a month with her, a whole month.
Crazy.
We're making bigger plans than that based on the fact that we got to a point in our conversations about who we are and our lives and things like that. And she goes, I'm done with this conversation. I want to start planning bigger. And I was like, she's smart, she's funny, she's cool. And so I got back and I sent her a surprise. I get a tattoo, and it's the Camino Santiago, Portugal 2024 with a heart-shaped balloon.
Wow.
With a heart-shaped balloon.
You just got that.
I just got this a couple days ago.
Wow.
And Vanya's going to get it also.
Let's go, dude. That is so crazy.
And there was two things that came out of this. Of course, the step out there in blind faith.
Yeah.
I got you. There was a day my pack was so heavy, my back was hurting, and God said, pick up your pack. Pick up your cross and walk. I got you. I got you. I heard that in my head. Pick up your cross. I was like, whoa. I'm jamming, right?
Yeah.
So stepping out there in blind faith because he has you no matter what happens in your life really became my whole theme to my Camino, to my walk, and of course to my life right now. Driving off in an RV to do speaking events or whatever God's got planned for me today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5 years from now. I don't know about it, but if you walk into that in blind faith, it's a complete different walk.
Yeah.
He's got you. He loves you. And so that became a really big theme to my Camino. But meeting Vanya and watching this mature towards the end of this Camino and me saying, God, it's completely in your hands. And then she goes to Italy and I come to America and it's still in your hands. I don't have any control of this, right?
Yeah.
And the thoughts of restoration, the thoughts of God rebuilding and giving me back the hard thing that I went through when I lost my beautiful wife. And I meet this beautiful friend and we pray together. We start our day with a prayer. It's like I pinch myself because my heart was shut down. And I meet this young lady and I'm like, ooh, this is scary. What's going on here? Step out in blind faith. And God restores.
Yeah.
And God rebuilds.
Blind faith. Yeah, dude, the verse that pops up when you say that is Proverbs 3:5-6, which is, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding, but in all of your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. And God straightens our paths when we just take that leap of faith. It's like, God, I don't get it.
Dude, say that again.
The verse?
Yeah, because people say their verses all the time, and it's like, say it again.
Yeah.
It's got so much meaning, and it means so much in my life.
It's breathing. It's living and breathing. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5-6, which is, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding, but in all of your ways, surrender to him, and he will make your path straight. And it's like the moments where I'm in life and I am so confused on what to do next, I'm realizing it's because I'm putting it all on me. What God wants me to do, just like you said a second ago, have blind faith. Take that one step. Usually we don't know the next 5 steps. Almost all the time we know the next step, but it's usually a scary one.
Yeah.
And it's that blind leap of faith, fall of faith, where that's where God shows up and then the next step reveals itself. So crazy, dude.
If more people in the world started doing that, would it not be a different place?
It would be a different world.
It'd
be
God.
A world we all want to live in. It would be the reason for the name of this podcast, which is Heaven on Earth.
Yeah.
Reflecting the ways of heaven on earth.
Yeah.
One of the last questions I always like to ask on this podcast is, how do you think that people can reflect the ways of heaven on earth? And the Heaven on Earth name comes from the Bible verse of the Lord's Prayer, part of the prayer, it's let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So it means that we can reflect the characteristics of heaven on earth. So some ways that I like to think about that is being kind, showing up for someone, praying for someone. What are some ways that you like to reflect the ways of heaven on earth?
I think the biggest way, and I've seen it happen more now than I've ever seen it in my life. I've seen it happen a lot where people, because of their family, went to church and things like that, or their dad was a pastor, or whatever the reason were, they knew Jesus. And nowadays, there's so many people that don't know Jesus, and it's through cancer, it's through tests, it's through trials, it's through car accidents, it's through bad things happening, and a nurse said, I'm praying for you. Or a stranger, somewhere said, I'm praying for you. And all of a sudden, people are like, there's something to that. So the biggest thing that I have to talk about and encourage is finding your own personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Because if you do that and you get that foundation laid, there's so many other beautiful things that are getting ready to happen. But they can't happen until you get that foundation laid. And I talk about this every day, and I'm still talking about it to people that have been watching me for 9 years and aren't really sure about this Jesus thing yet, but they're watching me fly all over the world and do what I do, completely orchestrated by God. And they're like, there's definitely something to this. And this guy is so happy. The joy shows on his face when I talk to him. And so now they're like, there might be something to this. And so what I always pray for is that people meet Jesus and they establish a personal relationship with him. And once you get that foundation laid, and even if once you meet him, don't think the devil's not going to be trying you every way possible.
Every force possible is going to show up on that day where you try. Every other person with an opinion is going to push you away. So crazy.
And so, that's what I really hope and pray for, is just that people find a personal relationship with Jesus in your way and in the way that grows for you, and let it blossom out. Because once that happens, you're going to start serving a purpose in life that you were like, man, I've been at the same job. It's been, I don't like my boss. I don't even like what I do. It's paying the bills. And all of a sudden, God starts filling you up with something completely different. And you're like, whoa, I see it now. I see where I'm supposed to be. I see what I'm supposed to do. And then I just ask also that, at the end of your day, when you see those blessings that God's dropping in your lap, to thank him for it. Just thank him, like, God, you get the glory. You get the glory. You gave me this big mouth. You gave me this energy. You gave me this excitement. I'm going to take this and I'm going to spread the word of Jesus. I'm going to spread the love of Jesus all over the world. And then at the end of every day, God, thank you.
Amen, bro. For some people, they don't know what meeting Jesus fully means. What are some ways that people would build that relationship with Jesus? It's the obvious things to you and I, but maybe you can let people know.
I'm an old farm boy from Ohio, so I like to keep it simple.
Yeah.
How about when you're driving to work, instead of that crazy music on your radio, shut it down and just chat with him? And I've heard the prayer. I've prayed with people, non-believers, and they're like, well, I don't even know if you really exist or not. I don't know if you're real, but if you do, me and my wife and my family and this job and this, they start naming all their problems, and they're like, help me out. That's where it starts. That's where it starts. It starts with a prayer, and it starts with talking to him and identifying what starts to come back into your life. We can go crazy elaborate. Some of the pastors out there will go crazy elaborate, and a lot of people can't even comprehend. I still don't know the path. If you're standing in your backyard watering plants, you got 15 minutes. How about having a chat with God? If you're in the kitchen and you're cooking pizza tonight and you're throwing down and you're cooking, how about instead of some other kind of music, find a worship station, and they are amazing now. The worship music is off the hook. If you like country music, they got worship music with a country genre. You can go to indie. You can go to rock. You can go to rap. I'm not kidding you, but what I love about, I used to listen to all kinds of music, and I love music. And now it is almost 100% worship music. I need it. I'll go to another station. Hey, today's reggae. I'm going to listen to reggae today. One song, and I'm like, it's not doing anything for me. And I go find a station on my worship station. So a relationship with Jesus starts from surrounding yourself by good people, believers, getting a message, somebody that you can call, and somebody that you can give a hug, somebody you can cry with, that will drop a prayer in your lap, and you're like, I needed that.
Yeah.
My buddy this morning called me. He's having problems with his drinking. He goes, I've been addicted to things my entire life. I said, let's pray, brother. And so we drop a prayer. And I said, I'm going to keep you accountable. And then I said, I got some things going on myself. You call and keep me accountable. We'll work together with this. Surround yourself by people that are walking in the right footsteps. Put worship music on your radio station. Start having little chats with God. Mine was a cookie cutter prayer with my kids for years right before we went to bed that I don't even know what it meant. Now we say a real prayer.
Yeah, just speak from the heart.
Yeah.
Just tell God what you really need and what you're really grateful for. Because there is always something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And that's the secret. It's not really a secret, but hey, Chuck, thank you, bro.
This is crazy.
Yeah, this is great. Full circle. Hey, why don't you tell people about Get Up and Live and how they can tap into this?
Okay,
Literally tap in, because you can tap your phone.
You can tap in.
Yeah.
So basically what happened was we started Living Hope Cancer Foundation. We've said Get Up and Live so many times that it was all over the place.
Tattooed it on
Get Up and Live,
Yep.
on my RV, on my clothes. Get Up and Live is everywhere. So getupandlive.org is if you hear the word cancer, you or somebody you love, and it's all free. And it's got 66 videos on there that are free coaching of what to do after hearing the words cancer. It's got an 8-day Bible plan on the front page of my Cancer Foundation app that a friend of mine who writes a lot of stuff for a lot of plans for the Bible app. Sue Bolt went through stage 4 cancer herself, and she is a rock star. She had a miraculous healing. Her husband's a pastor out in California, and she wrote that 8-day healing plan that's on my website. My 700 Club interviews on there. There's a lot of content on there, and there's even my juicing recipes and information like that. And then I had a lot of people saying, I never went to your cancer site because I don't have cancer, but I finally just checked it out, and I love how positive it is and inspirational it is. And I started thinking, I've got to branch out if I want to spread the love of Jesus to everybody, not just my cancer community. And I came up with an idea called a love tap. So the love tap, you remember like somebody walks by and gives you a love tap, and it stuck in my head, and I was like, I just want to give somebody a little love tap, and I don't have a whole lot of time sometimes. It might be a couple seconds in line at the grocery store or at the gym or walking my dogs, but the love tap is actually a bracelet. So the bracelet is a waterproof, flexible bracelet, and it's got a Bible verse on the inside of it, and I tell non-believers, this is for protection in that crazy world out there. And they put it on, they're like, cool, and they put it on. And so they've got a Bible phrase that they're carrying around now, but what they don't know, and I have to tell people, on the love tap, the little heart right there has a little LT on it. If you open up your smartphone and you touch it right on the back of your smartphone, and sometimes different cases slow it down. This one's taking a couple, there it is right there. You touch on that, it sends a signal to your phone, and on this signal right here, it's actually a website about spreading the love of Jesus Christ. These are $1 on the lovetap.life site or on the getupandlive.org site has a store.
Oh, yeah.
So they're $1.
Beautiful designs.
They're fun, ain't they fun?
Yeah, dude, these are awesome.
I handed out 300 over in Europe, and like I was telling somebody about it, and other people coming into the cafe was like pointing at their wrist like, yeah, we got our love tap.
Yeah.
And I mean, I started this wave of this love tap thing,
Yeah.
but there's some amazing testimonies, some really great testimonies on there of people that have been through hard times and stuff. And also at the bottom of the love tap site is my original Cancer Foundation site also. And so basically what we're doing is we're spreading the love of Jesus. I'm thinking about this. How can I do this? How about if you don't have this crazy personality stuff going on, and I don't really talk to people, but could you have 1 or 2 of these in your pocket and hand it to somebody that's just having a really hard day?
Yeah.
And saying, hey, I got you something. I know you're going through something. This is called a love tap. Just want to give you the gift. And if you go to the website, it's all about spreading love. And I'm sorry, I don't know what you're going through, but I'm praying for you. And give this to them and walk away. 10 seconds it took you, 5 seconds it took you. But spreading the love of Jesus Christ as like wildfire is my goal and my plan,
Yeah.
and it's starting to happen.
Because then God takes that and he multiplies it. You know, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
So good. He said everyone needs a little Jesus in their life.
Oh, he jumped in.
And he gave a little Jesus figurine that's on the other side of the room now.
It's a little Jesus. It's fun. You carry them in your pocket.
Yeah.
And I get them off of Amazon, and you're talking to people, and I go, put out your hand, and they put out their hand, and I hand it to them, and I go, everybody needs a little Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's a little Jesus. And I've had cancer patients and stuff going through hard times. They're like,
Yeah, I'm like gluing that on my dashboard in my car.
it's on the dashboard of my RV.
Oh, see, I love
Yeah,
it. Yeah, you
yeah.
guys got to see his RV. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Well, hey,
yeah.
Chuck, just to wrap this up, man, there's probably some people that were very touched by your story, and maybe there's somebody who wants to say yes to Jesus. Would you mind leading us in prayer
Ooh.
and leading someone
Come
in
on.
saying yes to Jesus if they've chosen to do that today?
Bow your head.
Let's do it.
Oh, man. Dear Heavenly Father, Abba Father, I want to thank you for my relationship with Josiah that started in a park 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. We had no idea what the plan was, but you did. Mm-hmm. You did. You knew the plan when we were knitted together in our mother's womb, that we would be sitting here right now giving you all the glory. Through our tough times, through our messes, became a missionary. Mm-hmm. Absolutely unbelievable. Want to pray for anybody that you put in front of this podcast right now. It's a funny thing. Things pop up. Sometimes you turn it on and you sit there and you're like, why am I watching this right now? Why am I listening to this right now? And I know that you're going to put this in the path of the people that need it. Mm-hmm. So I want to thank you for your love for us. Thank you for wrapping your arms around us. Thank you for being that gracious Father that no matter how many times that broken Chuck runs to you, runs back to you after crazy decisions I've made and things that I've done, and you're standing there with your arms wide open, accepting us in, bringing us in, and loving on us. Thank you for sending your only Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross, to forgive our sins, to be the greatest teacher of all times and forgive our sins. Thank you for your love for us. Thank you for the big crazy miracles, and thank you for the little blessings that a lot of people take for granted. But waking up this morning and my eyes opening is the first thank you every morning, the blessing that you gave us in this world. Bless the families out there like Josiah and Maddie and their kids, anybody growing with kids, that they teach their kids about Jesus Christ and how much he loves us. And we pray for all this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, bro. Thanks for coming out. Oh, that was a good one. That's good luck when that happens.
I love you, brother.
Love you, bro.